Hey, it's Brian Thomas from the 55KRC Morning Show with Lowell Scott from Hearing Solutions. He is our Ask the Expert on hearing issues. Lowell, good to see you again. We talked a little bit today on air about some of the problems that result as a consequence of hearing loss, but I want you to remind people why it's so important to have your hearing checked from time to time, so on a regular basis. If the problems are manifold coming down the road, but let's talk about the hearing test or hearing check.
Yeah, well, the American Medical Association recommends that everybody above the age of 50 get their hearing checked annually. So, if you really should get it checked annually, just because if you start, it comes on so gradually, you don't even recognize you're missing it. It's like all of a sudden you won't pick up the birds outside, or you hear this or that, but it's not like we consciously think about what sounds that we're picking up, because the brain's constantly listening to all these sounds around you and ignoring them. A prime example of that is if we're in a conversation together and then all of a sudden somebody says your name. Well, you hear the name, but see, you can hear that all the time, you just don't focus on it. And the key is what you focus on when you hear. So, hearing comes on so gradually, you don't recognize. The next thing you know, you're really having to fight to understand, and that's where the difficulty comes in.
And then that fight to understand the sentence, like if I was fighting to understand you, I'm putting a lot of effort into trying to figure out what you're saying. Right. That has a ripple effect, doesn't it?
Yeah, they found that, they've done some studies and found that the more hearing loss you have, the more it affects short-term memory, stress, heat levels in the brain, all because the electricity from the ear, when you think about it, all the ear does is change sound waves into electricity. And then they send that signal to the brain, and the brain has to then be able to comprehend and understand it. The less and less signal coming to the brain, the harder and harder I have to focus on what you're saying. Just because you hear something doesn't mean you understand it. If you think about, like we talked the other day, if I scream Japanese at you, it's not a function of hearing.
Right.
You have to comprehend what's being said, and that's the big issue with hearing loss.
You have to scream it slowly.
Yeah.
That's what it is.
Yeah.
Comprehension will come in.
Yeah.
Lowell Scott, it's good talking to you, and I'll encourage everyone to get in touch with you. Give them the office number so they can get a hearing. And you said after age 50, once a year, hey, if you don't go to the dentist, a cavity will develop over time, and you'll end up with a hole in your tooth. You just don't wake up with it. It's the same thing with hearing loss.
It's 513-248-1944.
248-1944. Good seeing you, Lowell.
Thank you.